Hi everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Renee Rzuski, the registered dietitian for our cardiac and pulmonary rehab programs. Today we're going to do education on understanding food labels because we know it can be very confusing. There's a lot of information on a label, and when you have health concerns and you're trying to watch out for specific nutrients, you want to be able to make sure that you buy the right types of foods that are going to, help you achieve better health. So for the next few minutes, we're just going to be talking about food labels, some new information, and then we're going to use some actual food labels in practice with those. Now on this slide, I wanted to show you that there is going to be a new food label. So on the right, you can see the new label, what it's going to look like. And for a lot of our foods, we're already seeing the new nutrition facts label. It's just that it's not completely implemented yet. It's going to take another year or so, according to the FDA. And then to the left, you can see what the original label is. And we've had that for, ever since. One thing to know about your food label is the nutrition facts that you see here are not 100% accurate. So when you're reading that, it's only about 80% accurate, and that's the loophole that the FDA allows for food companies. So again, read that with a grain of salt. It is something to pay attention to, but just know it's not 100% accurate. What is required to be 100% are ingredients. So if I always tell people that's a better way of knowing what's in your food is to check out your ingredients. So I recommend doing that in conjunction with looking at your nutrition facts. Now on these next few slides, you're going to see some tips on how to read a food label and some information that you can use. We're not going to really go through all of these slides, so I'm going to just skip through and we're going to land on the one that I want to spend a little time talking about. But that information is going to be here for you to kind of go back to it. So you'll see I'm going to skip through here, and we're going to practice all of these steps when we look at some examples towards the end here. So we will get this covered. I'm just not going to spend the time on it now so we can spend more time looking at food labels. So I'm going to land right about here. I don't know if you're used to using the percent daily value to help you read a food label, but it's really helpful because it makes reading labels very quick. And it helps you to understand if something is low in that nutrient or high in that nutrient. So depending, on your health goals, what are you looking out for on a food label? So this is going to help you to read that quick so you can get in and out of the grocery store. Even now, that's more important, right? So let's get started. Maybe sodium is your nutrient of concern. So what do we know about sodium here? If we look at the percent daily value for sodium, what is it? The answer is 7. So is that low? Is that high? Is that okay? Well, let's take a look here. In order for something to be considered low, it has to be 5% or less. So right now we know this is not low in sodium. If something's high, then the number you would see would be 20 or more. So we know that this is not high in sodium. It's somewhere in between. So when it's in between 5 and 20%, that actually indicates that it's a good source of that nutrient. So what we know now is, whatever this is considered to be a good source of sodium. The question is if you have a health concern that requires you to watch your sodium intake, will this be the right choice for you? So that's how we're going to use the percent daily value for when you're reading food labels. So now we're going to practice a little bit with all of these things. And the first one we're going to practice with is these Ritz crackers. Now I'm going to change the slide, but I am going to come back to this. And the reason I'm doing that is that here are some questions we're using to help us practice with the food label. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here. This is a popular snack choice for most of us in America, right? So most of us have eaten crackers of some type or another, and most likely it was a Ritz cracker somewhere along the way. This is a different configuration. This is the fresh stacks from Ritz. So maybe you've bought these before too. I chose this intentionally because looking at the food label that you see here, there's a reason. The food label is definitely overwhelming. There's a lot of information on there. And how are we using that? Well, it depends on how much we're eating. So I want to point out a few things here, and we're going to start with trying to find what the serving size is. So what is that? Well, if you look, there are little arrows on the screen. That yellow arrow is to help you cheat and find the serving size, which the answer is 5 crackers. Now, what if you've bought this configuration of the stacks and you think of a serving being a stack? How many crackers are in the stack? Now, most people would think to look at the nutrition facts to find that information. It's not there. So if you see that little orange arrow to the left of the nutrition facts as you're looking at the Ritz package, way down there at the bottom, you're going to see that orange arrow pointing to an area that's very small print. So I'm going to help you with this. The answer is, in a stack of crackers, there are 13 crackers. And we're going to hold on to that information because now we're going to start looking at the nutrition facts information and using sodium, try to figure out if this is a healthy choice. Now, your nutrient of concern may or may not be sodium. That's okay. You can practice along with us and then go back to the nutrients of your concern and see how it stacks up for you. So let's look at if we were eating a stack of crackers. There's 2 columns that you see on your nutrition facts, which is on the far right, you see the column that says 1 fresh stack, and to the left of that, you see 5 crackers, right? So you can see we're going to work off of that far right column where it says 1 fresh stack. So let's follow that down to where it intersects with sodium. So in that stack of crackers, what's the percent daily value for sodium? 12%. So what do we know about using the percent daily value? Is this low in sodium? Is this high in sodium? Or is it somewhere in between? In order for it to be low, it would need to be less than 5. In order for it to be high, it would need to be 20 or more. So it's at 12%. So actually what we know about this, if we eat a stack of crackers, is that it's a good source of sodium. Is this going to be the right choice for you? Are you putting anything on your crackers, like cheese or peanut butter, that might add more sodium? So that's just one example. Let's move on to the next example. And that's looking at ice cream. And this is a very popular brand of ice cream that people like to try if they're watching their carbohydrates or calories, or for whatever other reason maybe you have for choosing this. But those are some of the top reasons. And maybe as you're looking at this container, you know, it's hard to tell what the serving size is, but it's just a pint. The company actually intends for it to be 1 serving for you. So it's something that you can eat the whole thing and not have any guilt with your ice cream. But is it guilt-free? Let's take a closer look. So we might be drawn to the label where it says good source of protein, or maybe we're looking at, oh, it's only 70 calories, or maybe we notice there's 4 grams of net carbs. What are all those things? What does all that mean? So let's kind of dive in. Let's start with what a serving size is. A serving size is just a half cup. So for those of you who don't really know what a half cup looks like, I'm going to give you an image. You know what a medium lemon looks like? That's a half a cup. So how many of you actually just put a half cup of ice cream in your bowl? That's the amount of what looks like a medium lemon. Probably not many of us. So actually, if we were to eat the whole container, there's 4 servings in there. So how many cups of ice cream are we eating if we eat 4 servings? The answer is 2 cups. And that's more like what an average portion of ice cream is for most Americans here in the United States. So let's kind of look at, calories. How many calories are we really getting if we eat 4 servings. We would actually have to take that number 4 and multiply it by 70. So that's going to give us 280 calories. Let's look at the carbohydrates. So maybe you have diabetes. So if you're eating 4 servings, let's use the percent daily value to determine, is this low in carbs or high in carbs? So if we take that percent daily value, go down that column where it intersects with carbohydrates, we see that it says 4% of the daily value. Well, what we do know is that would actually be considered low in carbs. However, if we're eating more than a serving, it may not be. So if we're going to eat the whole container, which is 4 servings, let's take that number 4 again and multiply it by the percent daily value, which is 4%. 4 times 4 is equal to 16%. So it's not high in carbs, because in order for it to be high, it would need to be 20% or higher than that, but it is in between the low and the high. So it's actually a good source of carbohydrates. So that's still going to have an impact on your blood sugar. And let's drop down to where we see that line under total carbohydrates where it talks about erythritol. What is erythritol? Well, that's a sugar alcohol. It's one of the very few sugar alcohols that has 0 effect on your blood sugar, where all the other sugar alcohols like sorbitol and mannitol actually have a little impact on your blood sugar. So when we talk about what net carbs are, it's the amount of carbohydrates that are actually left that will have an impact on your blood sugar. So how do we get that number? Well, we subtract fiber from the carbohydrates, and we also subtract the sugar alcohols from carbohydrates to get the net carbs. Because erythritol has 0 impact on blood sugars, we take the full amount that we see here, which is 4 grams. We take the amount of fiber you see there, which is 4 grams. So 4 plus 4 is 8. And we subtract that from 12. So 12 minus 8 is 4. So that's how you're getting those 4 grams of net carbs. But again, if you are consuming a whole container, how many net carbs are you going to consume? So that would be 4 grams of net carbs times 4 servings. That now the answer is 16 grams of net carbs. So really, there's nothing that's a freebie. You have to consider how much you're eating and looking at that food label pretty closely. So the last example we're going to look at here is granola, because a lot of people think granola is healthy, but that's not always the case. We know that granola can have a lot of added sugar, and we're going to take a look at the new label here, because the new food label includes a line down below, and you can see the arrows pointing to it where it says included added sugars. So when we're talking about added sugars, now you'll know exactly how much they're putting into your food products. How many people consume a half a cup of granola? And again, that's about the size of a medium lemon. So if this was a breakfast cereal for you, you probably would find yourself eating more than just a half of a cup. But let's look at the percent daily value for that serving size. So again, we're going to look at, there's 2 columns, and you see the middle column says per serving, and then the far right column over there includes a different serving size. So let's use the middle column, and we go down to where it says added sugars. What's the percent daily value for that amount? The answer is 12%. You can also see how many grams of sugar is added. Just as a sidebar here, 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. So if you're eating the amount stated here as a serving size, then you're going to get almost 2 teaspoons of added sugar in that serving size. But let's go back to the percent daily value. Is this considered to be low in added sugar? The answer to that is no, because it would need to be under 5. Is this high in added sugar? The answer to that is no, because it would need to be 20 or higher. So it's in between. So what we know is that this is considered to be a good source of added sugar. Is that a good idea? It may not be. especially if you have high levels of cholesterol, you have irregular blood sugars, or you're trying to lose weight, because we know added sugar impacts all of those things. So let's take a look at the very end here. You might be thinking, well, now I feel maybe a little bit more educated, but what really should I be looking for? So I made a little cheat sheet here for you so that you can take this with you. Maybe you can take a screenshot with your phone, or this can be provided to you on print paper if you ask one of your coordinators. But this will give you an idea. These are the common nutrients that most people are concerned about. So this will help you as you look at the food label. If you're concerned about, let's say, saturated fat, then you could look for the percent daily value for saturated fat. And if it's less than 5, you'll know that it's low in saturated fat. Okay, we've come to the end of this label education. I hope now you feel better prepared to read these food labels and help you make really good choices in the grocery store to help you manage your health and your goals. Thank you. Bye-bye.